Welcome to Successful Philanthropy. I'm your host, Jean Shafaroff. This show is designed to highlight the work of leaders here in the United States and then internationally. Today with us, Vicki Schneps. Vicki is the president of Schneps Media, and she's the founder of Life's Work, a charity that we will soon hear all about. Let's all welcome Vicki Schneps. And Vicki, it is a great honor and pleasure to have you back on Successful Philanthropy. Vicki, I would like to start first with your charity work. You are the founder of Life's Work. Tell us a little bit about what that charity is all about, what you do, and why you started it.
Well, thank you, Jean. It's lovely being with you. I miss you, and we have wonderful times together in the Hamptons and Palm Beach and Manhattan. It's a great golden triangle world that we live in. We're very blessed. And, I don't even think of it as a charity, Jean. I like to think of it as a cause, because there's a different thinking when you talk about fighting for a cause. And, my cause, Life's Work, was really born out of my daughter turning blue in the nursery when she was born, just hours after she was born. And she suffered irreparable brain damage from oxygen deprivation. And we didn't know it because, babies are babies. And it wasn't until she was 3 months old that the doctor recognized she was having seizures. And at 3 months, we went to the hospital and, we did the tour, Jean, of finding a cure. And the year in every hospital in Manhattan and every hospital, in the region that might work with children with seizures. And we didn't realize what the seizures would mean in her life. And there was a very sweet, dear pediatric neurologist who finally sat us down after the 1.5-year journey to find help and said, you've got to come to the understanding that Lara will always be a 3-month-old developmentally. She's going to have to be diapered. She's going to have to be fed. She's going to have to be supported in a wheelchair. You've got to know that this is her future. And so I'm a cockeyed optimist. And when he said that, first you fall off, you cry your eyes out with the ears. And, you take it in, but you don't accept it. So I began the journey with my husband, who was a lawyer, Murray Schneps, and to find help for her. And for physical therapy, occupational therapy, when she was born, there was nothing like that in the community. But we had heard about a place on Staten Island called Willowbrook that had just built an infant rehabilitation center. So with great hope and prayers and, my cockeyed optimistic mind, we brought Lara there to be a resident and to be able to get those therapies. And at the time I lived in Bayside, and a lot of my friends were college graduates, but they weren't working. They were bringing up their children. And God bless them, they had healthy children. And one of them said to me one day, Vicki, there but for the grace of God go on, my kids are healthy. How can I help you? And so in my living room, we gathered a few other women, and we started the Women's Organization for Retarded Children, WORC. And we were devoted to raising money and to visiting and volunteering at Willowbrook. So, of course, I was there every week visiting Lara. And, for me to have these wonderful women supporting me and Lara and the other Laras that were there. Willowbrook had 5,400 people living there. So, we were very hopeful that maybe this might help. But sadly, within a year, Governor Rockefeller slashed the budget. And the people who fed my Lara, the people who gave her the therapy, the people who helped her diaper her, all those services were slashed. And my lovely ladies and I became marchers and picketers. And one of the doctors at Willowbrook knew a cub reporter by the name of Geraldo Rivera. And they literally snuck Geraldo in. He was working for Eyewitness News on Channel 7. And he came with his camera crew. And I'll never forget, Jean, what he said over the airwaves. He said, I can show you the pictures of these children. Many were adults. I can let you hear the sounds, but how do I describe the smell? Because a lot of them were sitting in their own urine and feces because there were no hands to help. I was blessed that Lara was in the baby buildings and she was, better cared for. But my lovely ladies and I, being marchers and picketers, I was on TV with Geraldo. I was on with Barbara Walters. I was on TV with a lot of the moments of the people on these major broadcasts, and it became a nationwide scandal. And my husband was very wise, and he filed with the Parents Association a federal class action lawsuit. And that class action lawsuit, we ultimately won, and it closed down Willowbrook. And in its place came all these wonderful group homes right in the neighborhood so we could be near our children and be able to help in every way we could. So we opened our first group home in New York State for children in Little Neck, Queens, and we named it the Geraldo Rivera Group Home. And fast forward to this year, Geraldo is still helping us, is still a great supporter. We do the Geraldo Rivera golf outing every year. And, with Trump winning, well, he was, Geraldo, the last contestant on Celebrity Apprentice, which really put Trump on the map. And Geraldo raised $760,000 as a Celebrity Apprentice. And he gave all the money to Life's Work. And so we are very grateful to him. And, he kind of put a bug in my head. Well, I saw the power of the press. I saw when we were marching and picketing, we were knocking on air. Nobody listened. But when Geraldo came with his cameras, came with his passion, came with his superb reporting that he ultimately won an Emmy for, I said, my master's degree is in teaching. And I taught for many years before Lara. I said, I think someday I'd love to be in the news business.
So, Vicki, before you go on any further, I just want to say what a beautiful story, a story of taking something that was absolutely horrible, the conditions at Willowbrook, and what so many thousands of people who were there had to live through, and then getting it closed and starting your own charity. You are
a cause. I'm changing your verbiage to causes.
Your charity, you still have a charity, and your message there is that out of a problem, great things can happen, great change can happen. And you want to talk also, of course, we want to hear about how you started your business, Schneps Media, which also supports so many different philanthropic causes. I want you to talk about that. But first, I want to say thank you. Thank you for doing something really great for so many people who did not have a voice for themselves.
Well, I think all of us learn as we're living. And I think we're touched in different ways. And everybody, somehow, some way, is touched. And I believe that I was empowered by the people around me, my friends, my neighbors, my fabulous family. And that's really where you call reaching out to a village to help you with your cause. And I am so eternally grateful. And when, I saw the power of the press with Geraldo, there's my frog. When I saw the power of the press with Geraldo, I said, someday I'd like to be in the news business. And 3 more children later, I met a man who had taken a buyout from the Daily News and started a paper in Astoria. And I lived in Bayside, which is 2 ends of Queens. And I said, John, I think 1985, we could start a newspaper here in Northeast Queens because every building went co-op. It was a change in the law that allowed every rental building to apply to be co-ops, and they did. And so I believe to this day, actually, that when you own an apartment or you own a home, you care about your neighborhood. And that has always been my philosophy of being in the neighborhood about the people in the neighborhood. And so we started the paper in my living room. He wrote all the articles. I wrote all the other articles. He took some pictures. I took some pictures. I sold the ads. he left that to me. And we got our first paper out, you know, and we had the most interesting visit to the printer, because in those days you had boards. You put the print, you had these strips of type, and you put it on a board, and the printer took the boards, and we took to Long Island City and took the boards, photographed the boards, made a plate, a metal plate, then put that plate on the enormous printing presses. And then at about midnight, that first issue, they bring me the paper, Jean. And they say, well, madam, what do you think? And on the front cover, the baby that was on the front cover was a black blog. So I screamed out, stop the presses. And guess what? They stopped the presses. We reshot the photo. We reshot the plate. We replated the presses. And about 2:00 in the morning, they bring me the next corrected issue. And they say, well, madam. And I said, it's a run. And that was my first paper in 1985. And today we are, well, next year we'll be celebrating our 40th anniversary in business. And the fact that we now own 101 media outlets. From the one, many have grown with the help of my son, who's in business with me.
An amazing story. And for those watching, we are with Vicki Schneps. She owns a newspaper conglomerate. She is the founder of a cause to help those with disabilities. She's an extraordinary woman. Vicki, tell us a little bit about how you promote philanthropy in your publications.
Well, you know, Jean, having myself seen how giving is a beautiful thing for the person who gives, that I believe the more you give, the more you get. And, you know, you're a role model for other people who you give so much, both of your time, your money, that you make it possible to support these causes. And for me, I have my media outlets, and I believe I want to promote the people who have helped the causes and the causes themselves. In fact, every month in December, every year, we do a giving guide where a nonprofit can take a space, talk about their cause, and ask for money. Because, you know, in December, everyone's writing their final checks of the year. And I want the causes locally to get those dollars. So I think it's very important to promote in my media. We both, you know, are online and in print. You know, we may have 101 newspapers, but our website had 9.8 million people on it. So we reach people digitally as well as in print. And I think it's critical that part of our community is people who give back. We actually have a monthly column in every one of my media called Acts of Kindness. Because I think a lot of it have gotten that. You know, everybody's at each other's necks with the, you know, the election made everybody very tense. And I think now we can all breathe. We have our new presidents coming into place, and our lives should become a little more smooth sailing where not friction is between us. And I do believe that the piece of giving back, Jean, that you are supporting in so many ways is a role model for other people to be able to give back. And I love what you also said recently at a cause that we were both at, when you said, you know, it's not always about the money. The gals who helped me start life's work, they gave their time. It wasn't about the money. And philanthropy can be your time, right?
No question. I wrote a book about philanthropy called Successful Philanthropy, How to Make a Life by What You Give. Let me say that again. Successful Philanthropy, How to Make a Life by What You Give. And in that book, the premise of that book is that anyone can be a philanthropist. If you don't have the money to give, you can give your time and knowledge. And that's vitally important. That being said, if you have the money, well, I believe you have an obligation to give. And once you get involved in the giving process, you realize that giving is far more rewarding than receiving.
Mm-hmm.
And the joy of giving is like nothing else. You feel good about what you're doing. It's uplifting. And you know you're not just thinking about yourself, because at the end of the day, what are we on this earth for? Are we here just to consume, to go to parties, to do this, to do that? No, we are here to make society better. At least that's what I believe. And I know you believe that also, Vicki. Of course, there's nothing wrong with having a good time. You should give to your family. If you have a young family, your priority, or your family always has to be your priority, but always make time, to give your knowledge, and to give available resources. Now, Vicki, I know a little bit about starting a charity. You actually started a charity. What advice would you give, Vicki Schneps, to anyone who wants to start a charity based around a cause the way you did?
Well, I think you've got to tell the story. You know, what I'm so proud of with my media, you know, in Dan's papers in the Hamptons, and now Dan's papers in Palm Beach, and Dan's papers in New York City, which we're just launching. You know, we have an opportunity for people to tell their stories. And I also believe you start small. You know, we started with 5 or 6 women and we did the job. And then we had this opportunity to be able to be heard. And there are vehicles right in your own community. We, as a community newspaper company, look for stories like this. So we are a vehicle in every community we serve to report on what are the causes that people are supporting. And telling the story from the heart is what it's about. You know, for us, I think newspapering today, for me, I'm blessed to be in the community. And we have wonderful stories to tell. And if people come to us with their stories, we're delighted to publish them, because this is making a difference in every community. I'm a big believer that each one of us can make a difference. We just have to begin. And we have a journey. I believe our lives are a journey. I call mine a great adventure because my life is like, blah, 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 blah. But I think we have an opportunity that our media can help the people that want to be part of us. And we have a website, schnepsmedia.com. And even though we have 101 media outlets, schnepsmedia.com, you can just write to us and let us know that you want us to cover your cause. Because as you know, we have pages and pages where we have photos of events. We have stories about the people who make a difference. So this is a wonderful nationwide. There are community newspapers that will tell the story.
And I love that you put in party pictures, because I remember back on how I got involved with the Southampton Hospital Foundation. Well, I read about it. I opened up a newspaper and I saw pictures, party pictures from the big gala that happens every August to support the hospital. And I said, well, in my mind, what's more important than healthcare? You live in a community. Well, the hospital is very, very important. So sure enough, I got involved in the Stony Brook Southampton Hospital slowly. I met a woman. She said, well, why don't you get involved with our auction committee and for our big gala? And back then I decided, okay, I'm going to help them out. So I went around asking everyone for auction items. And you know what? I was very successful. The reason being that people really believed in the cause. They believed in healthcare. They believed in helping their community, and they wanted to support it by giving auction items. Later on, I became the chair of the Southampton Hospital Foundation's Big Gala in the years 2010, 2011, and 2013. I was the only chair. I called so many different people, asking them to buy tables and tickets to our gala. And collectively, those 3 years, we raised from the gala $5.4 million.
Fabulous, fabulous.
A lot of work.
Fabulous.
I agree. It was a great thing. It was a lot of work. I took it very seriously. And today, in 2024, I remain very involved with the Stony Brook Southampton Hospital. I'm on the Southampton Hospital Foundation. My personal feeling in the Hamptons is that this is the most important group to support, because without a good hospital, you simply won't want to live in a community. Knowing that your family might get sick, you might get sick, well, where are you going to go? So it's quite self-serving to have a good hospital. Getting back to this interview about Vicki Schneps, who is a powerhouse of a woman who does so much for her causes and then to support many, many other causes. Vicki Schneps, founder of Schneps Media and the founder of Life's Work charity. What do you have on the horizon? I hear you're opening up some new magazines. I want to hear about them because those magazines essentially support philanthropy, and this show is all about philanthropy. Please tell us a little bit about your new ventures.
Well, you know, my son and I, we sometimes we laugh and we say we must have attention deficit, because when we start one thing and it's off the ground, we're ready to start another. And I think our philosophy in business is that if you don't grow, you die. It's like with a hospital raising money. You've got to always raise more money because the expenses are more and then more people to serve. Well, it's the same thing in our business. And I think, you know, I want to just give a little piece of advice to people because you gave them some advice about how you started by going on a committee. Never be afraid to ask. One of my philosophies is if you don't ask, you don't get. And there's nothing wrong with always asking because you give back as well. So in my business, you know, we started with that one paper in my living room. And when we grew neighborhood by neighborhood. And then my son joined the company. And then we started acquiring newspapers in Brooklyn and Queens. And we now serve the whole borough of, you know, every borough in New York City and Westchester and Long Island. We just bought all the papers last 2 months ago and the Gold Coast of Long Island. So we have the whole Gold Coast of Great Neck, Manhasset, Port Washington, Roslyn, you know, Glen Cove, Oyster Bay. It's an exciting adventure. And then we bought the Fire Island News because it became available. And then we started the Great South Bay, which features people of Fire Island. They bring the curtain down after Labor Day. And most of the people come from Great South Bay. Many of them have homes on Fire Island. So we started a paper in Great South Bay. And then this coming week, we are starting Dan's Papers NYC. And we're mailing it to people who have homes in the Hamptons and live in New York City. So it'll be all about them. I mean, that's our, you know, what shall we say, our motto? We're all about you. And remembering that all my staff is focused on that because each media outlet has its own editor and its own staff to keep it personal to that neighborhood. So we don't just say we're all about you. We have the implementation of all about you by keeping local staff and having an office in the Hamptons. We have an office in Long Island and West Hempstead. We have an office in Little Neck. We have an office in Brooklyn. We have an office in the Bronx because we are local. And, you know, it's a beautiful thing to cover communities. And I think we're blessed that where other media outlets are shrinking, we are growing. Because as you may know, not only do we do newspapers and websites and digital editions, we also do events. Because I'm talking to a power woman. So Jean has been a power woman for us in the Hamptons in New York City. And we do Powerless. And we do Gay City News Impact Awards. And we do Caribbean Life Impact Awards. And we do about 50 events a year. And that becomes a wonderful connector to the communities we serve. And then we do webinars. And then we do streaming TV. So we have multiple platforms, but it's all about you.
And what I love, Vicki, again, because this show is about philanthropy, is that you, for no charge at all, cover events. You put their party pictures in your magazine, and you are promoting those causes and those charities at no charge to the charities. And I think that's vitally important. And Vicki, we just have a few minutes left. And I would like you to give the website for Life's Work, the charity. And I think it's so important for those watching this to donate if they desire to donate, if they want to get involved in the charity, learn more about it. How do they do it?
Well, Life's Work, it is my Life's Work, but it's WORC.org is the website for the cause of helping children with autism, which is sadly an epidemic. We have expanded our group homes. We run day programs. We run kinds of support for families that are able to be guided when they have a child with special needs. So lifeswork.org is the name of the cause that I have created and stay involved with to this day. And my schnepsmedia.com is a bursting with energy, kind of growing constantly media outlet for the communities we serve. So I think, between, that kind of giving back has only been a great thing for me and supported me during my struggles with my daughter and helping my daughter, Lara, be the most she could be. And, she was always a 3-month-old. But Jean, she taught me more than any other human on earth because she taught me about giving. She taught me about creating. It's because of her I'm in the media business. So sometimes something bad may happen, what appears to be terrible. And we would have liked Lara to be my other 3 children, but Lara was special. And her specialness led me onto paths I could never have dreamt of. So I believe that when something bad comes, you can turn it to something good.
And Vicki, I want to thank you for your story of hope, because this show is not only about philanthropy, but it's about hope and it's about success. And you are a success person. You're a very successful woman. You've done so much, but life isn't always easy. And for you, life was not always easy because of your daughter's situation. And thank you for all you've done and for all the knowledge you've given us and the work you do today and will continue, I'm sure, for the rest of your life. This concludes Successful Philanthropy. Our guest today, Vicki Schneps. She is the founder of Life's Work. She is also the president of Schneps Media. I'm Jean Shafferoff, your host. I'll see you next week.